So quiz tomorrow. The quiz will start on section 6. So we're basically going to do 1.6 to 1.9. That's the quiz tomorrow. So everybody flip back to page 32. 1.6 was when we just introduced sine and cosine. So basically, I'll give you a point, like -3, 4. And I'll ask you at that point, what's the sine value and what's the cosine value? Sine is what over what? Y over r. Cosine is x over r, right? So you got to find your r. How are you going to find your r? X squared, y squared, r squared, right? So what's the r going to be in this case? 5? Because 3 squared, it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. There's a reason why I picked 3 and 4, because it works out really nice, right? So probably not. I'll probably be mean to you on the quiz, because on the quiz, I'm probably going to be mean to you and do this. Huh? It is, because now when you do a squared or x squared, you get 9 and 25. So that's 34. So r is going to equal the square root of 34, which that doesn't break down because that'd be 2 and 17. So it's just the square root of 34. So then sine is going to equal 5 over the square root of 34, but you can't leave that as your final answer because then I got to take points off. So you got to simplify that, so it would be what? 5 root 34 over 34. So yeah, expect to have to simplify those radicals tomorrow.
Why you gotta be like that?
It's just I got to separate the A's and the B's somehow.
Yeah. What about B's to E's?
Well, if it's a D to E situation, it's not going to be the simplifying radicals that breaks you. Like you'll just put you'll get this answer and you'll go, yeah, the answer is 1/2. What? No, the answer is not. That's nowhere near a right answer. Yeah. A's to B's. B's will put this answer. A's will put this answer. E's will put 3/5. Because they'll just see a 3 and a 5 and go, sure, that looks good. Yeah. That has nothing yet. Yeah, that's why. So we good with this section? Look at questions 23 through 28 on page 33 as well. So they're now, instead of giving you the x and the y, they give you the y and the r, or the x and the r. You got to find the x or the y. What's the quadrant going to be used for? Positive or negative, right? Because when you good with those? Which one? 24? Sure. So cosine, so what do they give you? Cosine's 1/2. And they give you that you're in the first quadrant. What's true about the first quadrant? Positive, positive. So that means I should have a positive x and a positive y. When they give me cosine, cosine is x over r, right? So I know my x is 1 and my r is 2. How do I find the y? X squared, y squared, r squared. So 4 and 1, so y is going to be the square root of 3. Technically it's plus or minus. How did I know it was positive square root of 3? Because you're in the first quadrant. The quadrant will determine positive or negative. So what's sine going to be? Square root of 3 over 2? Now this one should actually look familiar now. Do we know when cosine's 1/2? Think about your table. Do we know when cosine's 1/2? Isn't that a 30-degree angle? So it makes a whole lot of sense that when cosine's 1/2, sine ends up being square root of 3 over 2. Huh. It's almost like they were leading us to that table. It's weird how they did that. Cool, huh? Are we good with these? Oh, does a fat dog fart? Oh, no, all dogs fart. Yeah, it's true. I asked my wife. She thought I was an idiot for asking her that question, but she said, yeah, all dogs fart. Yeah. Okay. There will also be questions. Well, I'm going to turn the page. Page 37. So page 37, section 1.7 was this exact same thing, except now instead of just dealing with sine and cosine, now we're dealing with tangent, cosecant, secant, so we're getting all 6. Yes, there will be questions like this, where I will give you the point, bless you, and I will ask you for all 6 now. Sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, right? So sine is y over r, cosine is x over r, tangent is y over x, and then the 3 reciprocals are just the reciprocals of sine, cosine, tangent. Yes? There will be questions like 13 through 20 on page 37 as well. All those are quadrant questions. So if you look at on page 37, number 13, when do sine and tangent have the same sign? Well, when is sine positive? Top 2. When is cosine positive? Right 2. And tangent is first and third. So when are when is sine and tangent the same? First quadrant and fourth quadrant. They're both positive here. They're both negative here. Make sense? So there will be questions about quadrants as far as positive or negative. Are you guys good with like 21 through 28, where they give you one of the 6 trig functions, they give you a quadrant, you got to find the other 5? So there will be questions like those. Pick one. 20? 25? So 25, they give you secant is equal to -2. Well, if they give me secant, don't they also give me cosine? Cosine would be -1/2. So x, y, r, what do they give us? R would be -1, r is 2. How did I know the r wasn't the negative? R can't be negative. And then you do the same thing, x squared, y squared, r squared. We're going to get what, square root of 3 again? And it's plus or minus square root of 3. How do we know if it's plus or minus? We're in what quadrant for that one? Third quadrant? What's true about the third quadrant? Everything's negative, so this should be -√3. And then once you have the x, y, and r, sine is y over r, cosine is x over r, y over x, and just simplify those radicals.
So if you have tangent, right?
Tangent would be y over x.
Yeah.
Yes.
How would you know which one's negative?
Based on the quadrants. So if they said like tangent is equal to negative square root of 3 over 3, right? X, Y, R. Well, I know the y is going to be square root of 3, and I know the x is going to be 3, but I don't know which one. They would have to say you're either in the second or the fourth quadrant, right? If I was in the second quadrant, that's a negative x and a positive y, so I'd go negative x, positive y. If they said I was in the fourth quadrant, positive and negative, so, right? So I would make that decision based on the quadrant. Yes? Yep. Yeah, so it'd be 3 squared plus, let's say we're here. So it'd be negative square root of 3 squared, or negative 3 squared, plus the square root of 3 squared equals r squared. So it'd be 9 plus 3 is 12, which r would simplify to, what, 2 root 3? And do I have to worry about plus or minus here? Nope, because r can't be negative. Make sense? And then it's just a matter of simplifying your fractions and radicals. And when you put like sine y over r, those square root of 3's are going to cancel, just so you'll have like 1/2. Make sense? And don't be surprised when this happens. If I gave you a question like this, now that you know your table, could you use your table to solve this problem? Yeah. Is this number, is there a tangent value equal to this in your table? Yeah, then all the other answers from your table are going to work. Isn't that a 30? I'll bet you sine ends up being 1/2. I'll bet you cosine ends up being square root of 3 over 2. Because you're going to get square root of 3 over, x over r would be negative 3 over 2 root 3. Well, you got to multiply by the square root of 3. So you're going to get 3 root 3 over 6. And does that reduce? Huh, weird. It should work out like that, right? So you're going to get numbers out of your table. Don't be surprised if that happens on your quiz where I give you one of these x, y, r questions, but the numbers actually work out from the table. That's me trying to help you. Cool? Okay. Let's see if you guys remember. Oops. Do you need this? What goes here? All right, you're going to need your table. You're going to need your quadrants. When sine positive? Cosine? Right, 2. Tangent? First and third. You're also going to need your quadrantals. What's sine of 0? 0, 90, negative 1. Cosine of 0, 1. Cosine 90. Tangent of 0, 0, undefined. There's going to be 2 parts of your quiz tomorrow. There's going to be a non-calculator part. I'm going to hand you a sheet of paper. You're going to take that quiz. When you're done with that, you're going to turn it in, and I'm going to give you the second part. That second part, you'll be able to use a calculator. But that first part will be nothing but, what is the cosine? How did that happen? What's going on here? Really? You can do that to me? All right. Cosine of 210. What's my reference angle? 30. What quadrant? Third. What's cosine of 30? Think about your table. What's cosine of 30? Square root of 3 over 2. Third quadrant, cosine is negative. That could be question 1. Question 2 could be, what is the tangent of 120? What's my reference angle? 60. Quadrant? 2. What's tangent of 60? Square root of 3. Second quadrant, tangent is negative. So negative root 3. There's going to be 10 questions like that on your non-calculator quiz. All 6 trig functions are open. All of your special angles, 30s, 60, 90s, and all your quadrantals are fair game as well. Don't be surprised if I throw one of these at you. What is the cosine of 7 pi over 6? What's your reference angle? I would just do it as pi over 6. Or, that's 30. What's cosine of 30? Square root of 3 over 2. 7, 6. Isn't 7, 6 a little bit bigger than 1? Well, 1 would be 180. 1 pi. So it's a little bit bigger, so I'm in the third quadrant. So cosine is negative. Could you also convert that into degrees? Yes, but you're not going to have a calculator available. So good luck with that. A little harder. Not too hard, but a little harder. Good with those? There will also be questions about reference angles. If I give you an angle of like 382, well, first I would subtract 360, get it back under that, and then find the reference angle. Don't expect the reference angles. If it's just a reference angle question, don't expect it to be 30, 60, or 90. If I give you a one in radians, and I say, what's the reference angle for 7 pi over 11? Don't just assume that it's pi over 11. That only works with little denominators. When you get bigger, you actually are going to have to kind of figure out, here's 1 pi. 7/11 would be bigger than a half, right? So we got to figure out this angle here. How much closer, how many more 11ths would you need to get to 1 here? 1 would be 11/11, right? So that would be 4/11. Does that make sense? Could you also convert it to degrees? Find the answer and then convert it back? Yes. I think that adds steps though. Are we good with those? The rest of it's the homework from last night, just using your calculator. We good? Okay.